Welcome. Today's webinar is a fun topic. It's on overcoming blah, instructional design techniques to help all students succeed. Today's topic really drew a wide audience. It was very popular. If you were unable to come today, we are recording this, and everybody that signed up will get a copy of the recording. We have people represented from all kinds of industries. We have K-12, we have higher ed, we have corporate, we have healthcare, we have nonprofits, we have small businesses. So it's quite a large audience. Also, I have the Moodle logo. I will be referring to some tips in Moodle. That's one of the LMSs that we support. But the tips that I'm sharing go beyond Moodle, and I'm sure that most major LMSs have comparable tools that you can do the ideas of what I am showing to help make your courses better. Okay. We are using GoToWebinar today, and this didn't come out that clearly, but there is a small area in your dashboard for GoToWebinar for questions. And I really encourage you to ask questions if you have been in our webinar before. That makes it a lot more fun. And somebody might have the same question that you have. A lot of times people share resources, and it really becomes a lively community of practice. And also, if I can't answer a question, maybe somebody else can, or I will research it with our staff and we'll put it in the follow-up email. Okay, there are some resources in my slide presentation that I will be sharing, and I will send the recording, but I'll also send a link to the slide presentation as well, so that you can view some of those resource links later on as well. Okay, my name is Dr. Tammy Frame. I'm the Chief Education Officer at eClass for Learning. Just a little bit about me. I have a doctorate in learning technologies from Pepperdine, and I really like looking at technology and how people learn, how they communicate, and online learning really fits a lot of that in a lot of different ways. I like learning and researching how technology can provide new learning opportunities for students, particularly when they all have a device, how we can personalize learning more, and what new communication patterns we can have with technology that we couldn't before. I also am the founder of eClass for Learning, and my next slide talks a little bit about that. We help with e-learning solutions, and so some of the things that we do is we support 4 different LMSs, maybe 5 now. We help organizations with course development. We do have instructional designers on staff. We do professional development and training. I see the professional development as different from training. When we do professional development, we're really talking about best practices in using technologies to improve your learners' experience, whereas training to us is more how to use specific applications. Okay, we can help with marketing of online courses. We do hosting of LMS solutions and websites, and we also help with e-commerce solutions if you're trying to sell any of your courses. So we are kind of a full solutions provider that can help you with whatever you need to get your courses successfully online. So I'm going to just jump right in, and again, if you don't have Moodle, that's okay, because I'm sure that your LMS has a comparable tool set that you can use to do this. So the first question that I have is, what do you think one of the most underutilized instructional design tools is? And if you want to put that in the chat, that would be really interesting to see what people think. That, in my opinion, one that people don't use enough that would be very simple to do and would really improve their courses. And if anybody wants to take a stab at that, feel free to type it in the chat. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Okay. All right, nobody has added anything at this point. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's in Moodle, it's called the label, but I'm sure other LMSs have a tool that's very similar. What it basically a label is text. It's instructions. Often as course designers, we get so excited about adding all of our activities and adding all of our resources and just uploading. We forget to make a nice flow for the learner that has sort of scaffolding and tells them what they need to do and why things are there in the order that they should appear. So labels, I think, are one of the most underutilized things that can really make a difference, that is really simple to do. And if you happen to be a Moodle or Totara user, you would just go to add a resource activity, and the label is one of the things that's built right in, and it lets you type whatever you want to say. So here's some examples. It's just a text box where you type in what you want to say, but I'll kind of show you some classes. So throughout our presentation, I'm going to show examples of courses that we use some of these things. So here I have a course. This happens to be our blended learning course where we teach people how to teach online. And in here, what happens is please review the suggested resources on the topic of why go virtual and participate in the forum throughout the week. So all we've done is added a label explaining what we want people to do. And then we have another label. As this course progresses, you will be working on developing your own instructional unit. The unit plan template is due with the close of topic 4. It is highly recommended that you begin planning now. Okay, so you know, just kind of having that teacher voice, you know, you're not face-to-face anymore, so having those little prompts to help people is really, really helpful. And see, I should have another one. Okay, this one was done by one of our instructional designers, Sue Bradkey. And this is all right here is a label. And I like that she added even a star. So labels can have pictures in them too. To begin working in this course, please be sure to view the video, Welcome to Jumpstart Screencast, that is listed below. And then she even has another label right here with an arrow. Please click on the screencast link listed to begin working in this course. So those little prompts can really help, and oftentimes I see new designers or courses that are designed for the first time where it just has resources and activities in a list, and the learner isn't quite sure where they should begin or what they need to be doing. So kind of explaining the obvious and making it very, very obvious for your learner will help them be more successful. Okay, here's another little trick that I learned actually from another teacher in Alaska when I was teaching there for a little while. This is to leave some white space. All of the things that apply for good web reading apply to online courses. And so I have a module here, and then what I do is I have a little more white space. Otherwise, this came right under the video, and it was kind of hard to read. So all I did here, you might see this little tiny period. I could have even made that white. I made it a real light gray, and that's all I have in my whole label. But it afforded me, it's a little trick, to give me some white space. So that's how you could move things and make it a little more visually easy for people to read. It's just add some white space there. And a label can sometimes help you if your LMS tends to stack things right next to each other. Put in a label and put in some white space. Okay. If you do happen to be working with Totara or Moodle, they recently came out with a new text editor, and you can give it that under your user preferences. I personally like the old one because I had more tools, and that I like the tiny MCE one. And so what I tend to do with that one is I go into my preferences and I turn it back from the default, which is Addo now, to the tiny MCE, and it gives me more tools that I can use to work with text. So that's just a little tip. But yeah, knowing your editor really good and what tools are available can help you. Another tip is indenting content really improves readability. So a lot of these things that happen in online courses would also be true of a web page. So here I've got, a label, and I do this a lot in my courses where I step 1, do this, and then I put the things below. Step 2, do this. And here are my activities, and I just indented them so that the directions are a little bit more visible. And so indenting, just a very simple thing that you can do to make things, again, more readable and easy to navigate. Another little tip is tell your learners what is happening. Add information about files and time activities will take. I've even seen some courses that I really like where they have a little clock. Maybe it shows 10 minutes because people are on the go. They might be taking these on a phone or something like this at a intermission in a soccer game, and if they know they can get something done quickly and how long it should take, that really helps them. I think it also helps to tell them what they're downloading, if their machine will have it, how big it is, things like that. Later today I'm going to be somewhere where I'm working on my tablet. It just would help to know what I'm downloading and if that's going to be possible on my tablet or if that's something I should do on my laptop at home. Add descriptions of your activities and show them to the learner. So I think I have a course, just so we can keep speed going, I'll shut some of my windows down here. I don't need that one. But here's an assignment that I have, and I have a title, so you want good titles so that your learner knows what's going on. And then I have, in this sample, an electronic rubric is attached to an assignment. And this is like a demo class where I'm teaching people how to make different things. But I tell them what it is that we're looking at and what the file is about and why I uploaded it in the first place and why it's there and what the benefit of clicking on it is for the learner. So yeah, again, always kind of explaining the obvious because you aren't there face-to-face. Another thing that's really important is being consistency. The brain loves patterns, and the more that we're consistent, the more people will like your courses. So even a little thing like how links work, it doesn't matter how they work in your course as long as you're consistent. So I know in the LMSs we work with, you can choose how a link would work. I tend to like pop-ups, and this is a picture of a pop-up. So if somebody clicks on a link, like a discussion forum, it's going to show up in a pop-up window. I like that because then they can resize it to whatever size they want, but when they click off of it, the course is still residing behind it, and so that they don't get redirected somewhere else and have to log in again. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. But again, there's not a right or a wrong to this as long as you're consistent, because it's annoying to users if it's different every time. Yeah, so you just want to be very consistent in how you do that. And then usually when you're an instructional designer or a course designer, you pick your favorite method and then stick with it so that you're not confusing your learners all the time. Images really help. They can convey so many things. They can add engagement, add interest to your course, etc. Some things to do and things that you should learn, or if you're working in K-12 or higher ed, that you should help others learn that are making courses and make this a lot better. How to resize a graphic, how to wrap text around a graphic. Adding descriptions to your graphic is important because if somebody's using a screen reader, it will read that out loud. Adding them to topics to add interest really makes your course look better. And I think, too, using reoccurring icons. You see that a lot in websites nowadays really helps. So let me just show you an example of that. One of the courses that we like here, this one, we have, for each lesson, this little icon like this. When they have to take their final exams or do a quiz, we have an icon that looks like this. When they're ready for their certificate of completion, there's a little icon that looks like that. It just helps with, again, the brain is looking for patterns, and it helps the eye move around the page a little bit better. A note, too, is you want to make sure that you are following fair use and copyright guidelines. And one thing that can help you a lot is if you use Creative Commons images, you can even search under Creative Commons licensed material in Google Images now. And not only is that important that you do that because it's the law, but you are also then modeling that and hopefully citing your sources for your students, which is a 21st century skill that they'll need as well. So that would be another thing to say. A lot of LMSs will have what's called an HTML block, or sometimes they're called a widget. In them, you can add anything you want. They're very much like a label. They often go on the side in the theme. So you can add text, movies, images, sound. They can be placed anywhere. They can be used for instructor information, which I highly recommend that you do, that how students can contact you if you have office hours, if there's a help desk that learners can go to, where they can go for troubleshooting, those kinds of things. Quick links in the course to navigate around, or other really important information that you want to stand out and you want them to see. So I have a couple examples in some courses. Let me close some windows here. So here, Sue made a quick links block, and these are important things that will always be in the corner here: the facilitator contact info, the frequently asked forum, and the Moodle reference desk, because they're learning how to use Moodle here. So we have like tutorials with all of our step-by-step videos. Okay, here's one of a course that I did with my bio on the side, so that it's a little more personal and that my students can kind of get to know me a little bit. So those can be very effective. Another thing that you'll want to do is, this is especially true, I think, of Moodle, and I see a lot of bad Moodle courses, is in the newer versions of Moodle, I'd say version 2 and up, you can have different layout options so that not all of the content is on the front page and that you are not scrolling forever. But that's probably true of any LMS. I often think of Google Classroom and the stream and how long that can get. And there are a lot of techniques you can use to avoid that, because students do not want to scroll forever, especially if they're on a phone or a tablet. That can be very, very annoying. So if you're in Moodle and you want to change the layout, you would just go to the course admin, edit settings, course format, and show one section per page. And I'll show you an example of that. So instead of the old way where everything would be all the way down, I have almost like a table of contents of the course, and this kind of gives a little teaser. It gives um, the module title, and then it gives like a little teaser here with a little introduction and a little, again, I think images are very engaging, so a little image to kind of help the eye kind of get excited about it. And then to actually access that module, they have to click on the title, and then it opens up, and then they can navigate to any other module, or they can go on to the next one. And that sort of makes it far less overwhelming for the learner. If a learner comes and they're not especially fond about reading to begin with, and all they see is a never-ending scrolling page of things that they have to do, it can be very, very overwhelming. And so trying to chunk things will help visually and help, again, engagement. I would say whenever you can, if you have a lot of text, try to link it to another page. You can create, in a lot of LMSs, your own ebooks, and I'll show you an example of that. So here's one where we're in a flipped learning class, and there's just so many ways you can screencast, so we decided to make an ebook instead of making this scroll forever. And so here's our table of contents of our book. So if you wanted to maybe choose a method and go to that page, you can skip around. So if I wanted to learn how to make a screencast with my smartboard, I could skip to that page, and it's got a video and stuff. Because if we would take all of this, here's one with screener, content, and put it on one page, it would just go on forever. And this way it's sort of a resource, and people can find what it is they're looking for, and then get to the how-tos, or get the information that they need, and maybe not necessarily have to read it as one linear thing or pick out the information from a very long page. It allows them to chunk information and jump to what is interesting of them, and give them some choice as to where they want to go. So I think an ebook is a really good way to do it. In corporate, we use things like a SCORM package, and oftentimes those can branch, and so based on what the learner says or does, it moves to different parts. In Moodle, there's also a tool called the lesson that can do the very same thing, so that, you know, if people already know material, they don't have to go through it again, is another very effective way to do that, and much more engaging than lots and lots of text on one page. So try to avoid tons of text all at once. Nobody enjoys that. Another thing that I think is really important to make your courses engaging is mix resources and activities. And one of the districts I worked with in Alaska, they even had a rubric that they used to kind of self-evaluate courses before they went live. And they made sure that you could only have so many resources, like 2 or 3, before the learner had to do something active. And I don't know if you need to be that stringent, but research does show that people cannot just be passive participants in online learning. They need to be active participants and do active types of things. And so it's important, like this was a course that I was doing on how to make more feedback options for formative assessment in courses. So I always started with a little blurb, and then I would have a video how-to, and then I would have them do a sample assignment. Okay, so sort of a 1, 2, 3 in small chunks. There has even been some, I've seen, I don't know how well research-based this is, but some rules of thumbs that based on the age of your learner, they can maybe only watch or be passive for that many minutes plus 1 minute. So if you had an 8-year-old, maybe 9 minutes of video or something like that. And then they really do need to do something active to kind of help retain that information and stay engaged. So you really do want active things. I think in corporate, that's why SCORM is so popular, because you can have triggers and the learner has to do something to show that they retain some information that was just presented, and you can get very creative and animated in how they do that. They can drag things and write things and do things like that. Okay, the title of our course was Helping All Learners Succeed, and the word all was in italicized. This is becoming very, very important. All of us, whether you're in corporate or K-12 or higher ed, we all have to help a wide range of learners. And so when you're designing your courses, you should be thinking about things like people may have learning disabilities or cognitive disabilities, and it could be that having to focus on large amounts of information over a long time could be very difficult. So then breaking that up, like we just talked about, could be important. Some people will have visual impairments. And so you need a course that can do that too. A lot of times what's used in that is somebody who has a visual impairment may be using a screen reader, and it actually reads everything on the course. Okay, they may have fine motor skills problems, and so you need activities that may allow more time, and we'll talk about how that can be done. And then you can't always assume that if you do a movie that everybody can hear it. They may have auditory impairments, and so your course, by law, especially in higher ed, has to help those types of learners too, and has to be accessible to auditory impairments as well. So we'll talk about strategies for all of these. It becomes challenging that we have to be thinking about all these types of learners when we design the course. So here's some things to help. That's what the next slides are kind of about. One is you really want to be friendly with text. Even just if somebody doesn't have a visual impairment, people just appreciate this. And a lot of these are also best practices for how we read on the web. There's been a lot of research that we read differently on the web than we do in a book. So you want to make sure your text is easy to read. Sans serif whenever possible, so that would be Arial, Tahoma, Verdana are some that are recommended. We talked about indenting really helps to help some things stick out, and using white space is another one that we talked about before too. You don't want to use red and blue. That's very hard on the eyes as a color combination. Red and green is another really bad one. Dark green and black would be bad. Blue and black. Gray is very hard on the eyes and very hard to read. And try to avoid flickering, blinking, and distracting content. And you know, it's been interesting. There are more and more themes in LMSs that are available. And right now in website design, one of the things that's real popular are these moving banners, you know, that they move every few seconds. And that's really hot in the web world. A lot of LMSs also have modern, up-to-date themes that can do the same thing. And I've gotten a lot of comments from people whenever we set that up that, could you turn that off? That's annoying me as I'm trying to learn. I don't want that thing moving at the top constantly while I'm trying to read things. So that's kind of an interesting aside. Okay, PowerPoint best practices. You want to use the same kind of color contrast that we just talked about and good text in PowerPoint presentations that you upload. But this is another don't that I didn't know until recently. You want to try and avoid using text boxes, like special ones that you set up, not the ones that are in the layout, but extra ones. And the reason is if somebody has a visual impairment, screen readers cannot read within the text boxes. Okay, best practices for video and audio content. Okay, especially at higher ed, this is becoming more and more of a law. You want to include transcripts for video and audio. And you want to use high quality audio that eliminates distracting background noise. And yeah, I have seen some instructor videos that are really hard to hear. So make sure you've got a real good quiet place to record. I do have some resources that I will send this in the link for you that you can click on, but how to create a transcript file, how to get transcript of your YouTube video, how to transcribe video files to text with YouTube. So there are some tricks that if you're using YouTube and uploading your videos to YouTube, that can help you generate a transcript much easier than typing it out word by word. And I have the how-to links here. When you get the link to this slide share, you can click on them and see the directions on how to do that. Okay. You might need to provide extra support for different students. So a lot of LMSs, I think most, I'm not sure of any that don't, allow you to group students or put them in groupings. And so I've seen teachers use this to group content by Lexile level. And so, you know, on login, if you're put in a group, you might see an article and the person next to you would see an article, but they might be at slightly different Lexile levels. That would be a good use of groups or groupings. The other thing that you can do is you can, in a lot of the settings, especially in Moodle and Totara, even by individual or by group, you can allow more time. And that can be on different activities in the whole course, on a quiz, those types of things. So that's another way that you can differentiate. Another thing that's really important is the use of conditionals. Now, not all LMSs do this, but a lot of them do, and Moodle and Totara do. And that means that you can kind of have learning paths go on. And so the system is tracking if the student completes different things, and maybe they're needed for a badge or for completion or even to open up another course or activity. It's conditional on getting certain things checked off. So in this course you can see that I completed these things, but I still have this. And I have found with my adult learners, they absolutely love having these check boxes. It just gives another check that shows where they're at and where they need to go. Okay, and the way that we do that, I'll just kind of show you the logic on this, is when you turn your editing on, and we go here into the settings behind this, at the bottom, you can say what equals activity completion. And so you could say these things are met. In this case, they have to view it because it's a label. Maybe if it was a quiz, they had to get a certain grade or things like that. Or you could say this isn't available until something has been completed, a certain due date has passed. Maybe you only want things to appear at certain times. they've gotten a certain grade on something else, only a certain group can see it. A grouping, groups and groupings, I have a link to it, is a little confusing. A grouping is a group of groups, okay? Yeah, then there are specific reasons why you might use that. Something in their profile, so if they're maybe from a certain department, or you can add complex logic for any rule that you want. So you can really create these personalized learning paths that can help the learning happen at an individual level, which is kind of cool. That's one of the things that sort of excites me about technology. We couldn't do these things before. Okay, anything that shows progress, be it a badge, be it a checklist, things like this. This happens to be a plugin that you can get from Moodle or Totara, but I'm sure other LMSs have similar things that can be set up. This shows where, how much has been completed. So here we have a progress bar, and even as a teacher, I love this as a teacher, I can click here and get a kind of quick report on where everybody's at and who I might need to contact and how we're doing as a course. Just a real nice visual as a teacher, but each individual student sees theirs. Here's a little practice checklist when I was practicing. Maybe that one isn't so good because it doesn't have anything in it, but let's go here. I usually make one per each section, and it shows what has to be completed in that module and where we're at. And so again, I've gotten a lot of feedback, especially from adult learners, that they love this type of thing. It just gives added reassurance of where I'm at and what I still need to do. Okay. And here's a progress bar. Then we kind of looked at that. Getting feedback from your students on how the course is going is a very good instructional design technique. And it helps in two ways. I know that, especially with my adult learners and my blended learning courses that I teach, if I ask the whole group if anybody has questions, let's say in a live webinar or discussion board, I don't get quite the feedback that I get when I ask the same question and people can put in individually, just to me, how they're feeling about the course. And so that can help me flag who maybe I need to get together with one-on-one, or who might need extra support. The other thing that I like is to get mid-course feedback. Sometimes I might change things in the course. Maybe I'm finding the whole group is struggling with a certain concept and we need to spend more time at our next face-to-face webinar. Also, it helps me figure out what we might change the next time we offer the course. So getting that mid-course feedback or end-of-course feedback too, is a really good thing to do. So here's one that I like to do very simply. It's just a couple questions. I call it Mud and Pearls. So the questions, here's what it looks like from my perspective, but the actual questions that the student sees is mud. What's still muddy in the course for you? Pearl. Share one pearl or aha moment in the course for you. And I do that periodically, and I get really good feedback and get a good kind of read about how people are feeling, what they need help with, maybe what we should spend more time with. Here's another one in another course of a flipped learning course. Yeah, topic 1 feedback. Okay, please share any feedback you have, answer the questions, and then we actually have a survey. And this is helpful if multiple sections are being done, and we can kind of see from a course design viewpoint of how people are feeling about the course and any changes we might want to make to it. Okay, so that's been very valuable to us. And those are kind of my top instructional design things. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. You've been a very quiet group. Or if anybody has things that they use in their courses that might be helpful to share with the group that I didn't go over that has been useful to your learners. Okay, and if not, we had a quiet group today. I welcome any comments or feedbacks that you might have after the webinar too. I had a couple emails today too of people who couldn't come and who were looking forward to the recording. So if you didn't have a chance to ask questions and you want to email them to me, I'd be happy to respond to that as well. I hope this you found it useful, and I really appreciate it. Oh, good. We've got some questions. Okay, it was just some feedback. Okay, great. Thanks so much for your time, and I will be sending the link to the presentation as well as the recording probably later this afternoon or early tomorrow. So have a good rest of the day, everybody. Bye-bye.